Honestly, guys, I never really expected this Raw to be that good. But honestly, and I said honestly about many times, I'm happy to be wrong. This was a really good Raw. This is a way to actually set up a Survivor Series and make Survivor Series great. Now they're giving up the traditional Survivor Series tag team match, and they kind of, 86 that because of Seth Rollins being gone. And decided to do this whole tournament thing, and honestly, it's starting to sum up to be pretty solid matches. They had two really awesome matches with so many spots, it's ridiculous. And then they had two matches that were still good in their own right. They had four great matches for the quarterfinals, and honestly, guys, it was amazing. It really, really was. Yeah, about the opener, honestly, like I said on Twitter, I'm probably the only person that give two craps about the opener. Nothing against Kane, nothing against Undertaker, but screw them both. Seriously. And I'm not blaming them. I've already explained it in the video that I made, but honestly, they made Bray Wyatt look bad. The only possible way that they can actually make him look really good is if they actually have a really great match. I'll be fine if he loses if the match is good. If it's a stomp fest, like how it was this past Raw, then no, it's gonna make Bray look bad. I don't give a crap what anybody says. He's a psychotic heel. But even psychotic heels could not be taken seriously. There was a time that when Bray Wyatt actually did speak for a promo or for any kind of segment he's had, the entire room was quiet. People would listen to him. People wouldn't mock him and chant what throughout the entire thing. He's a joke now. He is becoming a joke. That's my opinion. He's starting to become a joke. He's had so many solid losses from major players in the game and major pay-per-views that nobody is taking him seriously. That's just my humble opinion. He has to look good with this match versus the Brothers of Destruction. They got the Wyatt family versus the Brothers of Destruction, and he has to choose two people. It can either be him and somebody else, or it can be two people. But let's be honest, Braun Strowman is going to be one of those guys. The Black Sheep is going to be the Black Sheep and the White Sheep, or the Black Sheep and Luke Harper. Either or, the Black Sheep's going to be in it, period. But regardless of that, I cared less about that promo. I cared less about it. Yeah, great, Taker came, wonderful, peachy. And so it was great to hear Kane. And let's be real, Kane is a way better talker than Taker. But despite all that, I just did not care. Because I am tired of people literally kissing the butt of Taker. Don't get me wrong. Taker has a great, awesome legacy. And I will be an idiot if I denied that. But the fact of the matter is that they literally stomped this guy who's supposed to be the future down just to promote a legend that's going to retire soon. With all this pomp and circumstance, in my opinion, they're giving this to him to keep him around. This is probably trying to inspire him to stay on for a few more years. But something is telling me that Taker is going to either retire this year or the next. And they're doing everything in their power to keep him here. So they're kissing his butt pretty much throughout the whole freaking night about 25 years of Undertaker for Survivor Series, which it should not be about in the first place. But anyway, I don't want to even start off with a rant because this happens to be a good Raw. And unfortunately, I ranted. There you go. It's there. But y'all know how I feel about Taker. Not so much because I hate the character. I love the character. I grew up with the character. Same thing with Kane. I do not hate them. I just hate how they're booked. I hate how they're booked, and I hate what they're doing to the future wrestlers that should surpass them. Because they're on their way out. Get it. But anyway, I've already stated that. And I'm going to move on to the actual review. The first tournament of the night was Kevin Owens versus Neville. Man, that match was really good. And it pretty much started off like, it started off pretty fast paced. This is Neville. These guys actually did fight at NXT. They have a huge personal rivalry. We all knew this match was going to be great, and it was. But the biggest spot in that match definitely was the reverse Hurricane Rana done by Neville. Oh my goodness. Amazing. And we honestly thought, in my opinion, I thought that Neville was going to take it. But then here comes the pop-up powerbomb. done by Kevin Owens, and he took it down. But then I can also mention another heat, another feud going on Twitter with Kevin Owens versus, who would have ever thought, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, Melissa Joan Hart. I mean, this was going on all freaking night. She just said that he was a lazy wrestler on Twitter, and man, did this just blow up. It was even mentioned on Raw, and he literally blocked her for that. That's actually pretty cool. That's absolutely amazing in my humble opinion. And I really think that she is awesome. Seriously. For those who are not following Melissa Joan Hart, should follow Melissa Joan Hart. She is awesome, and she is definitely a true wrestling fan in my opinion. But anyway, let's move on from there. I will say this. The tournament matches themselves, there were only 2 of the best. All four of them were great. Don't get me wrong. Except for Dean Ambrose versus Ziggler. It just started off pretty good, and then it just became slow as molasses throughout. It was just dragged on forever. And honestly, people keep saying that Ziggler should have the win. I was all about that maybe a few years back. But right now, I have to say that Ambrose is a hot ticket. Ambrose will make that belt interesting. That's why I'm fine with having Dean Ambrose win, because Dean Ambrose will actually make the belt look good. Ziggler really hasn't had a decent push in ever, and the only way he can is if he has a chick on his arm. But now that whole thing with Lana just completely 86ed and went belly up really quick after TMZ kind of outed them for Lana and Rusev being engaged. All I can honestly say is that Ziggler will not make that belt look as good as it should be if it's on someone else. I'm sorry, he wouldn't. He just doesn't look that great without having a chick on his arm. And I know we're trying to take him seriously. I know he wants to be taken seriously. I can get that. Especially how he is working his hardest to try to get to that point. But it's just something about him that just won't make that belt interesting yet. It's just not yet. He'll have his day in the sun. He's actually had, but he's had help along the way. And honestly, Dean Ambrose is more of a rebel. Everyone loves the anti-hero, and that is what Dean Ambrose is. We don't see characters like that anymore, and people want the belt on Ambrose. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion. That's how I see it. People want it on Ambrose. We love Ziggler. I love Ziggler. I really do. But I think the belt will look better on Ambrose. And that was an okay match. It wasn't horrible, but it was an okay match, and it still started off pretty well. And then it just slowed down really quickly. And then all of a sudden you got the finish. By the or, we got the finish with, in my opinion, who's the right guy. Dean Ambrose is going on to, I guess those are the semifinals. And that's going to be on Survivor Series. So he's going to go on. One of the stories that I think that would benefit better I'll just put it this way. It was Del Rio versus Kalisto. Now, honestly, no one really expected Kalisto to go that far. People expected Ryback, but the fact that Kalisto came out of nowhere and he actually did go up into the quarterfinals against Del Rio, which was a pretty good match, and they both looked good, and Kalisto really had some great spots there. But I would just say that it would have been better if Kalisto won. I'm sorry. I love Del Rio. I do. You can tell that there had to be something in his contract for him to actually have the title before coming back after all that ridiculousness about prejudice. Well, I'm not going to say ridiculousness, but I will say that all that controversy and all those issues that he had, well, with racism and all that other stuff. I know it's probably in his contract for him to actually have the belt, but regardless of that, I will say that it would have been better if Kalisto won. Not Del Rio, but Kalisto. People want to see a comeuppance story and a good one that's told really well. And honestly, it would have been told better if Kalisto actually did win. And it would have gave us some kind of, I don't know, a time to reminisce about, you know, how Rey Mysterio came up through the ranks, seeing how he's pretty much the same size as Kalisto. It would have been a great thing to see Kalisto go forward. And I didn't really want Del Rio to win. I was rooting for Kalisto, but he didn't. And now we got Del Rio in the semifinals at Survivor Series. But then let's talk about 2 of the best matches of the night. And honestly, guys, I never really thought I never would expect matches to be this grade A top notch on a Raw, since they have been giving us nothing but duds lately. I will say that and I just mentioned in the intro of how Kevin Owens versus Neville was started off to be a really great match, especially with Neville's spot for the reverse Hurricane Rana. Amazing. And it really made both of them look good. Even though Kevin Owens, we knew was going to be the dude to win, I really would have thought that it would have been great to see Neville go. Seriously, it would have been great to see Neville and Kalisto go, but now we got Kevin Owens, so now Kevin Owens is moving forward. And honestly, here is the match of the night. Here is my personal main event of the night. Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns. Oh my gosh. That match he had versus Cesaro was amazing. Cesaro literally stole the show in that match. By far. And it actually, he was more competition for Reigns to step up than vice versa. I mean, Cesaro was literally just putting the hammer down pretty much throughout the match. And he has such amazing spots. From his literally flying uppercut to his sharpshooter reversal into a crippler crossface. And yeah, I said crippler crossface. And when I said crossface, the fact that he actually did the fact that he did a counter into the crippler crossface from the sharpshooter was amazing. He literally had Roman Reigns on his toes. He literally made Roman Reigns step up his game. Even though Roman Reigns has nothing to put anybody away, he gave it his all in that match. And I gotta give mad respect to Roman Reigns for that. Not to mention Cesaro, even though I think Cesaro would have been the better guy. Of course we get Roman Reigns. He has to somehow get his comeuppance. So this has to be it. But honestly, by far, it should have been Cesaro. But it was an awesome match. Spectacular. I don't care if they broke kayfabe and shook hands. That was an amazing match. They should have. It was amazing. Seriously. And then we had a few matches in between. Pretty much the losers of the I guess the semifinals, or however it's supposed to go. The ones that lost on SmackDown and the previous Raw before had matches that night. And you end up having the New Day versus Ryback and Ryback and the Usos. And honestly, I never thought I would enjoy the New Day as much as I have, but I enjoy the New Day. I actually was kind of excited to see them come out. More so with Xavier Woods and his trombone. I think it's just because of Xavier Woods and his trombone is why I like it so much. But honestly, I kept seeing on Twitter how everyone was saying that Ryback was kind of out of control. He was a bit sloppy. And I'm like, what did he do? What did he do that he doesn't usually do? But anyway, I actually did see the match, and Ryback acted more like a heel than a face. Or at least, I don't know what to call him, but I can't call him a baby face. I just can't. His actions towards New Day was more of a heel than I would ever see a face do. Or is that the new thing? Maybe I'm lost. But, of course, the match didn't necessarily have a win. Excuse me. If the match didn't necessarily have a win, you ended up having the New Day get their butts handed to them, and it was a disqualification because he lightly tapped a referee and ended up losing. I guess it's just how it goes. But either or, he didn't win, he ended up losing, and that's just how it is. And it was just a match that the Usos and Ryback ended up having their hands up and trying, blah, 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 blah. But here's another match that I kind of sort of enjoyed because I absolutely love this guy. I love his entrance, and I'm talking about Tyler Breeze. I love Tyler Breeze's entrance with his huge selfie stick. And yeah, it's a waste of Summer Rae. I would rather see Summer Rae in a feud with one of the divas and actually being in the ring wrestling than her being a side piece on somebody's arm. Seriously. It's a waste of Summer Rae. But despite all that, it was actually pretty cool to see Tyler Breeze just come out there with a selfie stick. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I had a good time watching it. And yeah, it was against, and I don't think it was against R-Truth. I can't remember who he fought. But either or, I was just really interested in actually seeing him come out there. And that was the only reason why I cared about Tyler Breeze's match was his entrance. I love his entrance. I love it. And then we had R-Truth come out there. R-Truth is from the Carolinas, so hey, you know, you gotta show a little bit of support. But we all knew that he was just gonna be job fodder or whatever. He actually wasn't gonna win. We knew that. It was a given, and he came out there and did his all, and yay. But honestly, it was cool to actually see Triple H there. And it was interesting that Triple H was there without Stephanie. That was really interesting. She probably had something to do, and she probably couldn't be there. But it's always cool to see Triple H there without Stephanie, because you always see a different side of him. You always see a completely different side of him. Number one, he's more talkative. And number two, he's less conniving. He's actually more business-oriented. And he's actually more respectful towards other people. Sure, he has his whole Triple H cerebral assassin angle. But he's completely different without his wife. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but I have. But anyway, let's move on to the main event of the night, because I can't remember any of the other matches besides tournament matches, because I really didn't care much about them. So let's move on to the main event. Now, a lot of people gave Charlotte flack for crying. There's a reason why. She did lose her brother Reed recently. And it was hard for her, especially being in her hometown. And she's actually a Carolina girl. So that had to be hard being back where she's from and going through that promo. I mean, going through that entire segment had to be difficult for her. But I will say, I will give her kudos. I will give her kudos and tip off my imaginary hat to her, because she really did a good job despite her pain and what she is going through. The same thing with Ric Flair. It had to be really hard for them. And I know that Charlotte, it was probably difficult for her too. Probably more awkward than anything else, because she didn't know exactly what to say. And she probably felt the same exact way. Because I'm not really sure if they're really friends behind the scenes. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. And I know that had to be awkward for Charlotte, because, I mean, not awkward for Charlotte, but awkward for Paige, because she had to come up with something really snarky to say, because she's a heel, and she's like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to say to keep this going? And it was just really awkward back and forth at first, but then they kind of got their ground back, and they started focusing on doing what they had to do. And I gotta give mad respect for Charlotte, especially for what she's going through. My condolences go out to her and the Flair family, as well as Paige. I will admit that Paige was less whiny as she has been, because before she just sounded like a whiny little brat at every single promo she's had. But I will say that she does sound snarkier, she sounds meaner, she sounds more aggressive, and I like that kind of Paige. I do. This is going to be a really big match. A big match she's not going to win, because they're pretty much saving for her for Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, but at least it's going to be a decent one. So honestly, them having a signing like this, and I can't remember whether or not Trish had it or not, but this is a big deal. They actually did make this a big deal, which really makes me happy. They actually made the Divas a main event. I never thought this would ever happen, but honestly, they have, and it was great, and they really did make that belt worth something. Even though I still want the women's title back, but they made that belt look like it was worth something. They made it look like it was, that they wanted it. And they did a really good job with that. I'm not going to deny that. I completely agree on how everything was set up. But honestly, guys, my overall thoughts is this. Despite the opener and my rant that I had at the beginning, I will say that they are definitely doing a good job with this tournament. Since they're replacing the traditional Survivor Series match with the tournament, they're making a tournament a big deal, and that is what they're supposed to do. As for the main event with the women, amazing. Despite the pain that she is going through personally, they did a good job professionally, and they kept it going, and they kept it moving. Kudos to them. Seriously, thumbs up. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts about this Raw. Leave a comment in the comment section below or send a video response. I am curious to hear what you guys think about this Raw, because I am kind of excited about Survivor Series. It's in my hometown of Atlanta. They are going to literally blow the roof off that joint, and they better, because they only had 2 good pay-per-views in Atlanta, and they better make this a 3rd. Or maybe 1. I don't know. But maybe 1 good pay-per-view and a good streak match. I don't know. Either or, they better just blow the complete roof off that joint. But guys, I still want to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment in the comment section below. What are your thoughts about this Raw? Nature Girl 30 signing off. Peace out, guys. Later.